There is a moment in life when silence becomes louder than noise, when the chaos of your thoughts, the pressure of your expectations, and the weight of your failures converge into a stillness that demands your attention. Most people avoid that moment. They run to distractions. They seek comfort in the known, in what's easy, in what doesn't challenge their view of themselves. But transformation, true transformation, begins when you stop running. The mind, like the body, is a creature of habit. It will replay the same patterns, the same beliefs, the same emotions again and again until you interrupt them. So, if you are caught in a cycle of doubt, laziness, fear, or hopelessness, understand this: it is not your destiny. It is your conditioning, and conditioning can be changed, but not with wishful thinking, not with more information. Change begins with experience, with discipline, with conscious, deliberate action. For the next 3 days, you are going to give yourself a gift, not a gift of comfort, not a gift of escape, but a gift of confrontation, the kind that demands presence, intention, and stillness. You can commit to 3 days, truly commit. Your mind will not be the same on the other side. Day 1, you must return to the breath. Simple, yes, but do not confuse simplicity with weakness. Your breath is the gateway between the external and the internal. The world around you may be loud, but your breath is always waiting, silent, steady, faithful. Set aside 15 minutes. Sit, close your eyes, and simply observe the breath. No manipulation, no control. Inhale, exhale, again and again. At first, your mind will rebel. It will demand entertainment, distraction, escape, but you will not follow. You will stay, and in staying, you will begin to see how restless your mind truly is, how addicted you are to stimulation, how deeply uncomfortable you are with stillness. This discomfort is your teacher. It is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to continue. Day 2, you will confront your words, not the words you speak out loud, but the ones you whisper to yourself, the silent commentary, the private judgments, the constant criticism. For 1 day, observe this voice. Write down what it says. See the patterns, the repetition, the negativity that has gone unchecked for years. You cannot change what you do not see. This is your mirror. Look into it without flinching. Are these thoughts helping you? Are they building you? Or have they become invisible chains you've mistaken for truth? Awareness is not enough. You must intervene. Each time you catch a thought that diminishes your worth, that feeds your fear, that undermines your discipline, replace it. Not with empty positivity, but with truth, with clarity, with the voice of someone who wants to grow, not hide. This is not self-delusion. This is mental hygiene. You clean your body daily. Why not your mind? Day 3, you act. No more reflection, no more preparation, only movement. Choose one action you have delayed, one that aligns with your higher self. Perhaps it's a conversation, a decision, a task, a commitment. Whatever it is, do it. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. The perfect conditions do not exist. They are forged by movement. On this day, you must demonstrate to yourself that you are not a slave to your emotions. You can act with integrity, regardless of how you feel. This is the foundation of discipline. And discipline is the mother of freedom. If you follow this for 3 days, you will begin to feel it, the shift. A lightness in the mind, clarity in the body, a quiet strength. It will not scream, it will not parade, but it will be there, subtle, profound, permanent, because you didn't just think differently, you lived differently. Understand this: the world cannot give you transformation. It can only give you opportunities, and this is one of them. A challenge, a choice, a path. You can ignore it. You can tell yourself you'll try it someday, but remember, someday is the word the mind uses to delay your growth. Start now. Not perfectly, not completely, but sincerely. 3 days to this practice, and the rest of your life will never be the same. Return to the breath. 3 simple words, yet within them lies a doorway that few ever walk through. In a world of noise and distraction, the breath is the only constant we carry from the moment we are born until the moment we depart. It is so ordinary, so available, that we overlook its power. But if you are sincere about transforming your mindset, is where you must begin, not with books, not with motivation, not with ambition, but with your breath. When you sit with your breath, you are not doing something new. You are remembering something ancient, something you have known since the first gasp of air that filled your lungs. But life has a way of making us forget. The pace quickens, responsibilities multiply, emotions rise and fall like crashing waves. And in all that motion, we lose connection with the only thing that has ever truly anchored us. So you sit, you close your eyes, and you begin, not by controlling the breath, but by witnessing it. Just observing the inhale, the exhale, that gentle rise and fall in the body, that subtle movement like the tide. And at first, it feels pointless, boring even. You expect peace. Instead, you meet the full chaos of your mind. Thoughts come flooding in, judgments, memories, plans. 1,000 voices all speaking at once. You want to move. You want to get up. You want to quit, but you don't. You stay, and in staying, you realize something profound. It's the first time in a long time that you are actually present. Not scrolling, not reacting, not trying to fix or improve anything. Just being, just breathing. And in that simplicity, you begin to see clearly. The breath becomes a mirror. Every shallow inhale, every hurried exhale reflects the tension in your body, the anxiety in your mind, the urgency you carry even when there's nothing urgent. Is where awareness begins, not in theories or analysis, but in raw experience. Then something shifts. The breath slows down, not because you forced it, but because you stopped interfering. Your nervous system begins to regulate. Your heart rate softens. A space opens up inside you. That space is not empty. It is full of clarity. And from that clarity, you begin to see how much of your suffering is self-created. Not because life is easy, because the mind is rarely still enough to understand life. This is not meditation as a spiritual practice. This is meditation as survival, as purification, as the baseline from which all wise action must arise. You begin to understand the breath is not just a function of the body. It is a training ground for the mind. If you can sit with your breath for 15 minutes, you are doing something many people will never do in their lifetime. Face themselves without distraction. But it's not about the time. It's about the sincerity. 1 minute of deep presence is more valuable than an hour of shallow attention. So you sit each day, not to become better, but to become honest. And the more you return to the breath, the more you notice its rhythm throughout the day. You're no longer breathing unconsciously. You are breathing with awareness. And that awareness bleeds into everything. You speak with more calm. You listen with more depth. You walk with more intention. Because now you are connected, not lost in thought, not pulled by emotion. You are grounded. And here's what makes this powerful: no one else needs to know. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to talk about it. This is internal work, quiet work, invisible strength. You begin to carry a stillness with you, not the kind that avoids action, but the kind that takes action from a deeper place. You're no longer reacting to life. You are responding. You are not driven by fear. You are moved by clarity. And that clarity began the moment you closed your eyes and followed a breath that had always been there. Most people will not do this. They will keep searching for solutions outside themselves. They will change their routines, their environments, even their relationships, hoping something external will fix what is internal. Nothing external can give you what you have not first given to yourself. This breath, this simple returning, is a reminder that you already carry what you need. The answers, the wisdom, the strength. You must create the silence to hear it. Do this for 3 days, and your relationship with your mind will begin to change. You'll catch yourself before spiraling into anger. You'll recognize tension before it turns to stress. You'll know when to rest, when to push, when to speak, when to be still. And it all began not with a breakthrough, but with a breath. So sit, breathe, be still, and trust that what is simple is not small. The foundation of transformation. There is a voice inside you that speaks when no one else is listening. It comments on everything you do. It judges, it compares, it reminds you of what you've done wrong, what you haven't yet done, what you might never achieve. This voice is not new. It's been with you for years. shaped by your past, by your failures, your fears, and your conditioning. What's most dangerous is not that the voice exists. What's dangerous is that you rarely question it. You believe it. You obey it. You allow it to define the way you see yourself and the world. That is why you must confront your words. Not the ones you say out loud, but the ones you whisper to yourself when no one is watching. Your internal dialogue is not harmless. It creates the lens through which you interpret life, creates your mood, your energy, your choices. Every time you say, I can't, I'm not good enough, this won't work, you are reinforcing a reality that limits you. And over time, those words become beliefs. Those beliefs become behavior. And that behavior becomes your life. Most people live under the rule of an unconscious narrator, a voice that speaks without awareness, unchecked and uninterrupted. But what if you could slow down and listen? For just one day, you could witness the stream of thoughts flowing through your mind as clearly as if they were being read aloud. This is your task. Spend a day in deep observation. Not judgment, not resistance, just awareness. When a thought arises, you don't push it away and you don't follow it either. You simply notice. You write it down if you can. You start to see the patterns. How often your thoughts are negative. How often they speak in absolutes. How often they echo old voices. Teachers, parents, failures from your past. You realize this voice is not you. It is a collection of impressions, repetitions, and habits that you've never truly examined. And when you start to examine them, you reclaim your authority. You begin to choose your relationship with your thoughts instead of being owned by them. A thought arises. I always mess things up. And you pause. You ask, true? Or is this just familiar? That one question is enough to disrupt the cycle. That pause is a revolution. But observation is only the first step. The second step is reconditioning, not pretending, not covering up negativity with false positivity, but replacing lies with truth. When you catch a self-defeating thought, you don't just deny it, you redirect it. You replace, I'm not ready, with, I may be afraid, but I will take one step anyway. You replace, I'm not good at this, with, I am willing to learn. These are not motivational slogans. They are acts of discipline. They are conscious rewiring of your mental environment. Like you would not live in a house filled with garbage, you should not live in a mind filled with decay. Yet most people never take out the trash. They let old thoughts pile up, mold over, infect everything. Clean the space where your spirit lives. And that means being ruthless with the words you allow to shape your identity. Understand that the mind is always listening. Every word you say to yourself becomes a command. It's too hard. Becomes, I am powerless. I'll never change. Becomes, I don't deserve to try. You must treat your words with the weight they deserve. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love, especially when you are tired, especially when you are discouraged. That's when the voice inside becomes the most dangerous. That's when it convinces you to quit. But now, you know better? You know that voice is not your enemy. It is your training partner. It reveals where you are weak so you can grow strong. Every negative thought is an opportunity, not to shame yourself, but to shift, to notice, to intervene, to choose again. And each time you do, you reclaim one more inch of your power. That is how transformation happens, not through force, but through attention, through repetition, through quiet inner work that no one sees but you. If you do this sincerely for one day, if you watch your thoughts, write them down, confront them, replace them, you will feel the change immediately. Your energy will shift, your clarity will sharpen. You will realize just how much of your suffering was created by a mind left unattended. This is not magic, it is responsibility. And it is freedom. Because once you know you are not your thoughts, you are no longer trapped by them. You can choose. And in that choice lies your power. Do this for 3 days, and you will not need to convince yourself that change is happening. You will feel it, not because the world around you has shifted, but because your relationship with yourself has become honest, supportive, clear, and all it took was the courage to listen. To the words you've always spoken in silence, There comes a moment when you must stop thinking and start moving. A moment when reflection is no longer growth but resistance. When planning becomes procrastination. When preparation becomes avoidance. You already know what you need to do. You've known for a long time. The question is not about clarity, it's about courage. And that courage can only be revealed in action. On the third day you act. Not because the fear is gone. Not because the conditions are perfect. But because you've realized that waiting has a cost. Every time you postpone an action that matters to you, you lose a part of yourself. A piece of trust. A drop of momentum. And eventually, the weight of your inaction becomes heavier than the challenge you were trying to avoid. So you act not with recklessness, not with urgency, but with deliberate, grounded intention. Choose one thing. Just one. One action that you have been postponing. One decision that you've delayed because of doubt, fear, or perfectionism. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need to be seen by others. It just needs to be real. Something that matters to you. Something you know will move your life forward, even by a few steps. And then you do it. You will notice the mind trying to intervene. It will bring all its old tricks. You're not ready? It's too late. What if you fail? You listen, you acknowledge, and you move anyway. That is the training. Not to eliminate doubt, but to move alongside it. Not to wait for motivation, to act with discipline. Discipline is not loud. It does not shout. It does not perform. It is quiet, firm, and deeply personal. When you act despite your resistance, you are telling yourself something very powerful. I am not my hesitation. I am not my fear. I am the one who decides. This decision, repeated daily, is how character is built. Because character is not forged in thought. It is revealed in behavior. What you do when no one is watching. What you complete without applause. What you choose when excuses feel more comforting than commitment. Action creates clarity. When you move, things begin to shift. A problem that once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. Task that looked impossible becomes familiar. You begin to see that the obstacle wasn't the task itself. It was your own story about the task. The moment you act, that story begins to lose its grip. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance. You become a participant in your own becoming. There is a deep peace that comes from doing what you said you would do. From aligning intention with execution. It's not about the result, about the integrity. When you act from that place, you begin to respect yourself. Not because you're achieving, but because you're honoring the commitments you've made to yourself. That self-respect is the foundation of all transformation. You realize, I can rely on myself. I don't need perfect emotions. I don't need external approval. I need only this moment. And the willingness to engage with it fully is where freedom is born. Not in escaping life, but in participating with life from a place of grounded presence. Every time you choose to act instead of delay, you create momentum. That momentum builds confidence. Not because you've done something extraordinary, but because you've done something consistent. Confidence is not about feeling certain. It's about showing up repeatedly, even when you don't. Confidence is a consequence of movement, and that movement must become your habit. Action must become your default. It doesn't mean you rush. It means you don't freeze. You don't let fear decide for you. You let your values guide you. And when they do, you walk forward even if your legs are shaking. There is a sacred power in small actions taken with full presence. Writing the first page, making the difficult phone call, telling the truth, starting the workout, finishing what you started. These are the moments that define you, not because of their size, but because of their sincerity. If you do what you've been avoiding, even once, you send a message to your mind, I am not here to be ruled. I am here to grow. The most dangerous mindset is the one that waits. For confidence, for clarity, for the right mood. You cannot wait your way into transformation. You act your way into it. You take the first step, not because the whole path is visible, but because your growth depends on it. You do it uncertain, unready, and maybe even afraid. But you do it. And in that doing, something changes, not just in your life, but in your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who talks and begin seeing yourself as someone who moves. That change is irreversible. It reshapes how you meet the world, how you meet yourself. Act. Don't wait. Don't explain. Don't ask for permission. Let this be the day you broke the pattern. Let this be the moment you chose movement over fear. Do that and your mindset will never be the same. Shift you feel after 3 days is subtle. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't shout or demand attention. But it is there. A quiet steadiness where there used to be tension. A clarity where there used to be confusion. A sense of self-respect that wasn't there before. This shift didn't happen by accident. It happened because, for the first time in a long time, you took full responsibility for your inner life. You stopped blaming circumstances, stopped waiting for inspiration. You stopped arguing with your own potential. And instead you followed through on something small, something simple, but something real. And now something more important is revealed. A question, one that does not need words, but will echo through your mind if you let it. Will you continue? Because it's easy to be strong for a day. It's impressive to be disciplined for 2. And 3 days of transformation, done with full sincerity, can change your direction. But the real test of mindset, the true foundation of inner strength, is not built in one breakthrough. It is built in repetition, in return, in choosing again. This is the key. Continuation is transformation. If you want to live a life that is not ruled by impulse, emotion, and distraction, then you must learn to return to the breath again, to return to clarity again, to return to right action, even when it's inconvenient. What changes your life is not what you do once. It's what you keep doing, especially when the excitement wears off, especially when no one is watching, is what separates those who shift temporarily from those who shift permanently. You must stop asking, how do I stay motivated? And start asking, how do I build systems that carry me when motivation fades? Because motivation will fade. Emotions will fluctuate. Life will get messy. But that does not mean your clarity has to disappear with it. You anchor your clarity in habits. You create a rhythm that is stronger than your excuses. You simplify your focus, breathe, observe, act, repeat. You become someone who returns over and over, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. You understand that mastery is not about intensity, it is about consistency. And that consistency becomes your identity. It reshapes how you see yourself. You are no longer a person who tries. You are a person who does. No longer someone who wishes. You are someone who follows through. And that quiet self-trust, built day by day, becomes the unshakable foundation beneath everything else. But you must understand you will fall. You will forget. You will skip the breath. You will let the old thoughts in. You will avoid the action. That is part of the path. Do not mistake the fall for failure. Mistake it only if you do not get up. Take it only if you let one misstep become a new direction. One moment of slipping into unconsciousness does not erase the work. It reveals the work that still remains, so you return. Each time you return, you make the pathway stronger. Each time you sit again, breathe again, act again, you prove to yourself that you are not held by the past. You are moved by presence. You are no longer addicted to the performance of growth. You are rooted in the process. That process is humbling. It will strip away everything you thought you needed. It will take your excuses, your distractions, even your pride. And in the space it leaves behind, you will meet yourself. Not the version you created to please others, but the version that knows how to sit in silence, speak with honesty, and move with purpose. So now the question is no longer, what can I do in 3 days? It is, who am I choosing to become every day? You do not need to be perfect. You need to be sincere. You need to be consistent. You need to remember what this path has already revealed to you, that strength is quiet, that truth is simple, and that your transformation is already in motion if you continue. Let the breath anchor you. Let awareness guide you. Let action ground you. And let the return be your daily discipline. Do not wait to feel ready. Not wait for life to calm down. Do not wait until the mood is right. If you can return when tired, when doubtful, when frustrated, then you are no longer ruled by the storm. You are the calm in the center of it, is the mark of true change. When you no longer need to prove yourself to the world. When you no longer need others to understand. When you are at peace in your own practice, walking your own path with clarity and presence. 3 days was the beginning, but the journey is yours to continue. Now walk. Now you've seen what's possible in just 3 days. Not through some grand external change, but by turning inward. You didn't need new tools, new environments, or anyone's permission. You only needed presence. And in that presence, you discovered how far you had drifted from yourself and how quickly you could return. You returned to the breath. In the stillness of your breath, you realized how much noise you carry inside, how restless the mind becomes when it's no longer distracted. But you didn't run from it. You stayed. You breathed. And in that moment of staying, something inside began to settle. That stillness was not weakness. It was strength. A strength most people never touch because they're too afraid of what they'll find in silence. You confronted your words. You watched the way your mind spoke to you, how it judged, how it doubted, how it replayed the same tired beliefs. But you didn't flinch. You saw those thoughts for what they were, habits, not truth. You chose to speak differently, not to fake confidence, but to replace fear with clarity. For the first time, you began speaking to yourself like someone worth listening to. You acted. You didn't wait for the perfect moment. You didn't wait for the fear to leave, simply moved. Through the resistance, through the uncertainty. You proved that the smallest step is more powerful than the strongest intention. That movement creates clarity, not the other way around. And in that act of doing, shifted from passivity to purpose. And now here you are, 3 days later, with a mind that's steadier, a voice that's kinder, a will that's firmer. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you stopped outsourcing your power. You stopped waiting. You showed up for yourself. The beauty of this path is not in its intensity. It's in its repeatability. You didn't need 3 years. You needed 3 days of honesty, 3 days of discipline, 3 days of returning. And now you know what to do. You return. To the breath when the world grows loud. To your thoughts when they turn dark. To action when the body feels frozen. To stillness when your mind starts running. Because transformation is not a moment, it's a rhythm. It's not what you do when you feel inspired. It's what you return to when you don't. And that rhythm, that practice, choice to come back to yourself over and over again is the foundation of real strength. This journey is not about control. It's about connection. It's about becoming so rooted in awareness, so grounded in self-respect. No storm can move you far. You may be shaken, but you will not break. You may forget, but you will return. The world may never notice this change. No one may applaud your stillness, your discipline, your quiet growth. You will know. You will feel it in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you choose what to give your energy to. That is the kind of transformation that cannot be undone. That is the kind of mindset that lasts a lifetime. So don't turn this into a story you tell once. Don't let these 3 days become a memory of a time you almost changed. Let them be the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. One built on simplicity, sincerity, consistency. You've seen what happens when you stop running, when you sit, when you breathe. When you act, you've seen who you are when the noise falls away and the excuses are left behind. That person, the one who showed up when it was hard, who stayed when it was uncomfortable, who moved when it felt uncertain, that is your real self. And now that you've met them, don't let them disappear. Return to the breath, return to clarity, return to action, return to truth. Not once, every day. Do this, not for 3 days, but for the rest of your life, and your mindset will never be the same again.